Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tin Man's Corner channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'll be reading another ghost story out of South Carolina Ghost, From the Coast to the Mountains by Nancy Roberts. And this story is called The Blue Lady of Hilton Head. So, without further ado, I'm going to switch it over to night vision. And let's get to it, shall we? The August hurricane of 1898 was not unexpected. In fact, it had been heralded for at least 3 days, and warnings were given before it made its appearance. The Weather Bureau found it lurking in West Indian waters. It was gathering itself and taking on anonymous threatening form in the Caribbean. At Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, Adam Fripp knew there was nothing to do except lay in supplies and wait. He had been keeper of the 136-foot Lighthouse for 3 years and a widower for 2. His 20-year-old daughter, Caroline, was as interested in his work as he. She was worried about the danger the storm meant for ships at sea. The hurricane, after moving west and then to the south, had turned and was heading directly for the South Atlantic coast, like some evil monster. It seemed to be feeding and gathering strength as it came, thought Caroline, but it might yet go out to sea. Jeremiah, who helped her father clean the tower, gave his opinion on the likelihood of the storm striking with one of the island's sayings. June too soon, July stand by, August come it must. And he looked permissively at the ocean. This was August Adams' face was grave as he slipped on his indigo blue uniform and adjusted the summer canvas helmet. Caroline noticed how tired he looked. His face had the grayish tinge it had taken on after a mild heart attack. The year before. Feel sorry for him anyway. A heart attack would mess you up in a heartbeat, but anyway. The long climb up the lighthouse steps can't be good for him. She worried nevertheless he mounted them, if anything, more quickly than usual. Caroline was just behind him, her dark, shiny hair glinting and her dress bright blue in the last rays of the sun that shone through the openings in the metal tower. Little by little, she had begun to share the duties with her father. Every 2 months, she would help wash the lens with wine. I never heard you could do that. And the lamps inside the lens were alternated every 15 days. You gotta clean them that much, but anyway. She also trimmed the wick and adjusted the lamp. Once she spilled oil on the lens, but her father had taught her to pour some wine on her cloth and clean it quickly. The light, an accelerated torch, sat on a pedestal surrounded by tall glass windows. Caroline felt very important as she worked in her linen apron, worn to prevent even the possibility of coarse clothing scratching the lens. The rules were very strict, and the keepers were required to have their lens and lanterns in order by 10 o'clock each morning for lighting in the evening. The next morning it was rainy, and the rain continued all day Saturday. Caroline braved the weather to take her father his supper. I'm going to spend the night here tonight, Caroline. You go on back to the house. Let me pour more oil in the lamp, Father, so that it will last all night, and then you can come back with me. No, it's especially important that we maintain a good light tonight, Caroline. He was proud of that light for its Fresnel lens compared favorably with European lights. You go on over to the house and take everything inside that might blow away. Then secure the shutters. Caroline brought in the wooded rockers and plant stands from the porch. She was relieved that her father had brought home cornmeal, sweet potatoes, turnips, and other provisions. I would go for the cornmeal and sweet potatoes, but I don't know about the turnips. But anyway, for it would be a week or more before he would be going to Savannah. The rain had stopped momentarily, and not yet ready to go back to the lighthouse, she sat on the edge of the porch. Her dog Frisky settled himself beside her. Not far from the house was the edge of the forest with its large pines. Among them scattered sweet gums and water oaks. It was that time of day the island blacks called the half-dark. Stillness hung over the little clearing, and the air seemed heavy and stagnant. Even Frisky seemed to sense the approaching storm. He held up his head and sniffed the air and moved restlessly. Caroline packed food to take over to the lighthouse. Her father would need it during the long night ahead. And then a thought occurred to her. She would stay too. A sharp gale had sprung up from the northeast. She found her father staring out to sea through his binoculars and wondered what he could see. Caroline, there's a ship out there, and it's too close. It's dangerously close. If I can see it in this weather, Adam Fripp has a seaman's eye. When it came to judging distances, the weather was worsening, and the wind was literally tearing at the tower. Do you think a ship can see our light? Optimum visibility for the light is 20 miles. In a storm like this, I wonder if it's a mile. But this is when a ship needs to see that light the most. And if there is a break for a moment in the clouds out there, yes, even visibility for a few seconds could make all the difference. The storm was getting worse by the minute. It made her think of a raging beast trying to reach its prey. A beast without rule or reason, that would hear no pleas for mercy. The wind rattled the window frames and battered at them as if it sought to come in. She saw her father looking at him. Two neither mentioned it, and Caroline unwrapped the sandwiches she had brought. The rain was torrential, and the wind continued to gather force. Caroline looked at the barometer, and her face turned white. She had never seen a reading so low, and was about to question her father when there was a sound like a sharp explosion, followed by glass shattering on the floor. Oh, here's a picture of the tower that they were looking at out of. The gale had blown out one of the windows. Her father went into the storage room and came back with several boards, but there was no way to hold them over the opening so that he could nail them in place. Another pane shattered explosively, and at 2 minutes before the sixth light went out, the torch, get the torch! Rain was blowing in the two open windows, and all was in darkness, but Caroline went into the storage room and finally managed to put her hands on the torch. She handed it to her father, and he lit the lamp, but a few minutes the wind extinguished it again. Caroline tried to shield it with a board, and for 2 hours her father continued to light the lamp, and each time the wind extinguished it. Yeah, I would hate that too, trying to light the darn sucker and it won't light. But anyway, Caroline was drenched from the rain, and she knew her father to be also. The lamp went out, and once more she waited to see the hand illuminated by the blow torch reach up to relight it, but nothing happened. Why had it not lightened the lamp as he had done time after time? "Light the lamp, father," she cried out, but there was no answer. She found the torch on its side on the floor, reached for the pedestal, and managed to light it. As the glow of the lamp temporarily illuminated the small room, she saw her father lying almost at her feet, clutching his chest in agony. He was unable to speak. She was just able to loosen the collar of his shirt beneath the blue uniform coat before the light went out once more. So Scrambling back to where she thought she had left the torch, she realized it was gone, and for a moment she was filled with panic. Then she remembered that it was still in her hand when she had knelt over her father. Was he going to die right here in the midst of this horrible storm? Before she could get him home or go for help, Caroline crawled back through the water on the floor rather than stand and be buffeted by the gust of rain coming through the two broken windows. When she discovered the torch, it was her father's hand, but he had not succeeded in raising himself from the floor to light the lamp. She took it from him and was able to light the lamp wick, although she wondered how much longer it would remain dry enough to ignite. She knew her father should be home in bed, but how would he get down the stairs and walk through the storm to the house? "We have to get you home." She shouted it several times above the noise of the storm before she could make him understand. Finally, with her arm under his, he began to crawl little by little toward the door to the lighthouse stairs, but try as he would, Adam was too unsteady even to crawl down the steps. There was nothing to do but wait until morning. Caroline made him as comfortable as she could and urged him to sleep until the storm had passed. In the morning, she could send someone for a doctor on the mainland. Exhausted, she fell into a deep slumber. All right, everybody, I'm going to stop this and do a part 2. It's kind of a long story, so I hope you're there with me on the ride.